All right, so it looks like we're at the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and we'll dive in. Thanks for everyone for joining us here on this Thursday afternoon for community webinar and Q&A. Today we'll be demoing the envelope budget tool that's via the Tiller add-on. So our goals for this webinar are, this one specifically, are to just learn the basics of this envelope budgeting tool. And the secondary goal of this, and the goal every other week when we do this webinar, Randy and I, is to just give an opportunity for our community members to engage with the team here and just have like a live, pretty informal, casual Q&A session to ask questions and just have real-time engagement with our team. So we will have a Q&A at the end, so please use the Q&A button in the Zoom controls. You can ask a question at any point during the webinar. Just make sure you're using that Q&A button. The Zoom controls are usually at the bottom of your screen. That just helps make sure that all the questions get in the Q&A report that I generate, which you will get in the resources email that you'll receive tomorrow. We'll be sending a link to the recording for this webinar, as well as any referenced community or help center articles. Those all get sent out. They're logged on the community in a specific topic. And so that Q&A report allows me to quickly get to those. So you'll get that tomorrow. And then I just wanted to share our upcoming community webinars. We will be, after this week, switching the cadence. So we'll be skipping a couple weeks. And so our next one will be on June 25th, and we'll be covering how to manually add and reconcile transactions. This is great if you want to, project cash flow for like a business, for example, if you're also using the business dashboard from Tiller Labs, and just anytime you want to just make sure that transactions are accounted in your cash flow, you can do that with this manual add reconcile flow. July 9th, we'll be talking about tracking cash, which was a big requested topic in our survey. And then the 23rd, we'll be talking about the migration helper, which just allows you to easily move data between Google Sheets. And so speaking of surveys, when this webinar ends and you exit Zoom, you'll be prompted to complete a quick survey. Your feedback's really valuable. This helps us just assess like what topics are you interested in, so we can just continue to fill the schedule with things that are relevant. There's tons of stuff we could cover, but we'd love to know from you what you'd like to see, and then also just help us improve the format and things like that. So we'll go ahead and dive in. I'll be running the demo today. And so first I just want to, demo how to get started with, from the very beginning with this, because this is a separate add-on. It's a Tiller add-on. It's one that we've had for a long time. I'm not sure, how long many of you have been with us, but it was our first real add-on, and we're changing the ecosystem with our add-on. So many people are not aware that we have this Tiller add-on, because it's not the one that feeds the data, and it's not the one that has most of the solutions, which is the Labs add-on. And so that's a question that we often get, is like, how do I even get this thing? And so really, to get started in this envelope budget template, you can just start from a blank Google Sheet. And so I'll start here with a blank Google Sheet, and that's the power of the Tiller Money Feeds add-on, is that you can add the data feeds to any Google Sheet. And so I'll just say envelope budget test. And then in my add-ons menu, first I'm going to get the data fed into the sheet. And so I'll use the Tiller Money Feeds add-on here, and then I'll choose launch. If you haven't yet installed that, you can easily get to that. There's links on the Help Center. I'll make sure that that's in the resources that get sent out tomorrow. But I'll go ahead and I'll link this sheet to my console, which makes the accounts available for me to feed data in. And then just for demo purposes, I'll just pick a card that has low transaction frequency here. And so this is going to get me all set up with the transaction sheet, which is needed for the feeds, the category sheet, as well as the balance history sheet. And so you'll notice, if you're familiar with the foundation template, for example, that this category sheet is a bit different. It doesn't have all those month columns in it. And so that is why, if you maybe have seen, you've tried to hook this envelope budget template to your foundation template and it doesn't work. It's because it doesn't need those extra month columns. So now I've got my data fed in. Great. The next step is to use the Tiller add-on, and I have it just kind of pulled up here. This is the guide for this template, this tool. It's supported by our team over in the Tiller Money community. And if you haven't yet installed this Tiller add-on, you can get to it from this guide. There's a link here for how to install it. And you can't search for it in the marketplace right now, so you do need this direct link. So I already have it installed, and so I'll choose Tiller, envelope budget, and start. And this is the basics of kind of getting the template installed into the sheet. And this was one of our first experiments with modularity and building a template on top of an existing Google Sheet, it was cool to like learn how to do that and the different ways to do it. And so it's pretty neat in that regard. But so over here in the create budget option, you can see there's different, options for, do you want to budget weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly? I'll just choose monthly. I want it to be based on just the day of the month, and the start of this month is going to be the first day of the month. So I'll go ahead and I'll create the budget. It's going to add some sheets and resources into my Google Sheet, and it's going to install my monthly budget. It's going to basically wire everything up for me to be able to use this tool. And so you can see here, now I have my monthly budget sheet, and I'm ready to start actually budgeting and using the template. So I'm going to switch over to a demo sheet that I've already spent some time preparing, just to make the demo go a little bit quicker. But those are the basics of kind of getting the data fed in and then installing the template. So once you've installed the template, the first thing you really want to do in any of our templates is spend some time on the category sheet. And you can, we give you some example categories in any category sheet that we install for you, but you can overwrite these. You can add new ones to the bottom of the list. You can delete lines that you don't need. And so I've already spent some time categorizing my transactions. Setting up my categories here on the category sheet, setting up my groups. And so that's the first step, really, is just customize based on the way that you spend and earn your money. There's some extra.
Sure. I was just about to go where I was going. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. You can see that there are some extra columns here in the category sheet that are not in the foundation template. And in this demo, we're gonna focus on this one in a little bit. The other one to be aware of is the hide from reports. That's any category that you mark as hide. Is not going to show up on your monthly budget tab or any of the reports that you might install via, or solutions or templates you might install via the Tiller Labs add-on. And so we'll come back to rollover, and just note that every category needs a group and a type. The types are income, expense, and transfer. Transfers are typically things like credit card payments, for example. So once you've set up your categories, the next thing you'll want to do is spend some time categorizing transactions. And in my demo sheet, I've already spent the time categorizing these transactions. Super easy. You can use the drop-down menu, or you can just start typing the name of, which this is not really travel. You can start typing the name of the category here, and it'll narrow the list, and you can easily hit enter, and it chooses it for me. So I've spent the time categorizing transactions here. So what is my next step? The main thing with this envelope template that's especially different about the foundation template is where the budgets are set. So as I mentioned before, in the category sheet, you don't have all those month columns. So, you're going to be setting the budgets in a different place. The budgets get set here on the monthly budget tab itself, and you can enter them into this adjust cell here in column N. Let's say my cell phone bill is going to be 50. I just type in 50 and hit enter. And then after a couple seconds, it's going to populate here in my budget tab. And you may have noticed up here in the right-hand upper right, you saw like a progress indicator. That means that things are happening behind the scenes. This template is really powerful, and especially this cell is very powerful, and it's all running based on this the scripts in the background, this add-on. Randy could explain a lot more about that and how all that works, as he built those scripts and wrote them and wired it up. And so it's pretty magic that you can type that number in, and then it ingests it and pops it out over here. So you can see now my budget is 50. So you can go through, line by line and set your budgets here in this adjust cell. And then you're really off and running. If you really, if you want to just use this as a budget, you can. You don't necessarily have to use the rollover features. That really is the magic and power in this template. And so that's why we recommend it specifically for that methodology, but by no means do you have to use those features. Just checking my notes here to make sure I didn't miss anything basic before I move on to the rollovers. Okay, so rollover budgeting setup. This is if you want to use a zero-sum or envelope budgeting methodology. And these are the steps you'll need to do that we recommend for just easy getting started with that capability. The first thing you'll want to do is head back over to the category sheet and decide how you want your categories to roll over. So all categories should have a rollover to. You can have them roll over to themselves. You can have them roll over to other categories. So let's say that I wanted, my auto and gas. If I didn't spend all of my auto and gas budget, I wanted anything remaining for auto and gas to go to groceries, I could set it to groceries. And that doesn't have reject input on the data validation. So I have it set to groceries now. You can mix and match. The main thing to be aware of is that every category should have a rollover to. If you don't set a rollover to for every category, you're going to get some unexpected results that may be confusing. So the easiest thing to do really is to just set them all to themselves. And so I do this really quickly and easily by just hitting using the equal sign, which means I'm adding a formula to the cell and then referencing the category that corresponds to that row. And so then I can quickly just pull this down with the quick fill square, and I've quickly got all of my rollover to set to themselves to be the same category. Because to me, that in my experience, that just makes the most sense, but everybody might be different in how they want to think about where they want things to roll over. So now the next thing I'll want to do to turn on the rollover capability is from the add-ons menu under Tiller Envelope Budget, I'm going to choose Analyze Budgets History. And this is a really handy action that you can take anytime you're seeing things looking weird in the calculations, or maybe things get stuck in the adjust cell, or you're missing a period, and I'll kind of come back to those in a minute, but just be aware Analyze Budgets History is your friend. Anytime you make changes to categories or, recategorize transactions in a past period, things like that, you're going to want to Analyze Budgets History. So I'll go ahead and Analyze Budgets History, and then we'll see what happens to my monthly dashboard over here.
Quick note, Heather,
Sure.
on Analyze Budgets History. It does run automatically when you do things like switch the period up in those green boxes up in M2 and 3. But there are some times when you've made a change and it doesn't run automatically, and that's when you'd want to go up to the menu like Heather just demonstrated and kind of force it to run.
Thanks, Randy. So you can see now I'm getting this note about some rollover adjustment. I have 2,211 of favorable rollover adjustment. We won't dig in too much about exactly what that is. We can definitely take questions on it, but the thing to just kind of think about when you're first starting out and setting up this workflow is that you don't really need to worry about last month and why you're seeing this rollover adjustment in the first month. The recommended flow here is to go into the add-ons menu, Tiller Envelope Budget, and use Adjust Category, and then take that, whatever that amount is. Favorable means that it's a positive, unfavorable means that it's a negative. And so I'm going to take the, from the rollover adjustment, so then those go away, and then I'll choose none. I'm basically just going to remove or net out that rollover adjustment, because I really just care about I'm starting my budget in June and I'm going forward. I'm not trying to look back or retroactively set budgets or anything like that. So I'll just type in that value exactly as I see it there, and then I'll just say adjust, and it's going to remove this message for me. It's going to take away that rollover adjustment, and so I have a clean slate. I can just kind of go forward from June on. The reason that you see that is because it represents the net actuals from the previous month. When you start this budget template, you get 2 months here in your selector for the months. You get the prior period and you get and the current period. And depending on if you're using weekly or bi-weekly, that's going to vary, but you get 2 periods. And the reason that we do that is so that you get this great information in this prior column on the budget dashboard. So if you spent the time categorizing transactions, which was that second step, and you categorize last month up to today, then you'd have a lot of really useful information in this prior period about how to think about your budget, especially if you're not sure what your budget targets need to be. And so that's sort of like why we only give you 2 months at a time. And so basically you're getting that rollover adjustment because the calculations are looking at last month and the actuals, and they've rolled them over, but it doesn't know where to put them. And so basically just kind of netting that out is the easiest way to kind of just start clean and go forward. So now if I want to use a zero-sum budgeting methodology, I have a little bit of work to do in my budget. I can tell here that I have $1,222 of income budget available to allocate to my expenses. And that number is coming from the amount of basically just subtracting the total amount of budgeted expenses from the total amount of budgeted income. And the remainder is 1,022. And so I basically just need to figure out where I want that 1,022 to go. And so I can just pick, I can pick different categories here. I don't have anything for like savings. So that might be something that I want to go and add. And that's an easy way to just kind of get it all moved somewhere. And so I'll go to savings, and I'm not going to set a target on this because I don't want to demo that. I just want to have an easy place to put that money. So I'm just going to say 1,022, allocate the budget to that. And then once that updates, it's going to take a second because it's got to update the kind of calculation sheet behind the scenes, let it know a new category is there, and then I should see it show up in the budget. And then I should also see that now my budget is fully allocated and my expense budget matches my income budget, and I get this big green check mark. So now like I have that zero-sum budget. My income budget matches my expense budget. So I've allocated all my money. So really the main thing to kind of think about going forward is just spending time categorizing transactions. And then when the next, throughout the month, so then when July rolls around, I should automatically see a new month for July show up here. It's not going to show up automatically until the 1st of July. If for some reason it doesn't, that is where you can go and you can run this Analyze Budgets History again, and it'll show up. Sometimes that script that runs automatically every night, the trigger fails for whatever reason. And we haven't given this budget a lot of development attention in a long time, and it may get some attention in the future, but that's just sort of a quirk with it. So just understand, if you don't see that July month, just run that Analyze Budgets History and it'll show up. So then at the beginning of July, I'll see all of the money that was available in a category, positive or negative, roll over based on the rollover to categories I have set here on the category sheet. And the last thing I want to share is that if you've been zero-sum or envelope budgeting for a while now and you have balances that you're carrying in specific categories already, and you want to go ahead and see, like you want to go ahead and track the balance of those categories in this tool, you can do that as well. And you can do that with the adjust cell as well by just typing in a shortcut command. So if, let's say that I'd already had like, $1,000 set aside for gifts, I can type R equals 1,000 and it's going to update my rollover amount. That R in that dynamic shortcut indicates that I want to change the rollover value. I can also
Heather, maybe scroll down a little bit so they can see what the columns are. Oh, sorry, the other way.
Oh, this way.
Yeah.
So yeah, rollover column here, it's showing me now that I have that $1,000 of rollovers in the gifts column. And then I can see that my total rollover savings at the top is now $1,000. So you can go and set your category balances that you currently have using that shortcut command. I can also move money in and out of rollover and budgets with those shortcut commands. The thing to just be aware of is that if I move money out of my, I want to take away budget from coffee, so I can say B minus, let's say $20, that I need to move that money into another category, because then it'll show me now that I have an extra $20 that, for my income that I need to allocate somewhere else to keep it zero sum. So let's say I wanted to add that to the restaurants, I could say B plus 20, and then it's going to add $20 to that restaurant's budget, and it should then zero sum me, and I get that big green check mark. So I think that was everything I had in my notes. Randy, is there anything else that I missed that you want to that I should show?
You didn't miss anything. Just to clarify a tiny bit, those shortcuts are meant to sort of make for a very nimble workflow where you can kind of adapt your savings in a net budget, a net cash flow neutral way. Or sorry, adapt your budget in a net cash flow neutral way to like the needs of a particular month. And then the other thing is just a tiny bit more on the rollover too. I think with traditional envelope budgeting, you're always kind of rolling over to the next month. Like if you have a health budget and you don't spend anything one month, that budget accumulates, and eventually when you have like a checkup or an operation or whatever, you spend that money. So the rollover too, typically you would set the same category. Why we're allowing you to specify a rollover too is some people like to have the things they save. Let's just say they don't go to the movies, or they save something on their entertainment budget. They want to have it roll over into a place that accumulates for a bigger goal, like a vacation. And so with the rollover too, you can kind of specify some budgets kind of stay in the same category, but other ones maybe accumulate in some bigger goal, like a new car, vacation, whatever.
Yeah, that is a great feature of it. When I was using this budget, I've switched to the foundation template like you did too, but when I was using this, I had all of them just set to my vacation fund because I wanted to just like have everything rolling into that to save up for my vacation. So it's a good point. All right, well, that's everything I had to demo. It took me a little bit longer than I was hoping, but there's a lot to absorb there. So I can go ahead and start taking some questions. So it looks like Jennifer is asking, I'm using the foundation template. How can I remove that budget tool and use this one? Also, if I set up a monthly budget for 1 month, will that be copied over to future months? So I'll take the second part of your question first. Yes, if you set the budget here, in the budget dashboard for the current period when you get started in this, it'll always use that budget amount in the next period. Whatever is in the current period, it's going to use that. When July rolls around, it's going to reuse all the same budget amounts that you set up for June for your July budget. As far as using this instead of the foundation template, there's not an easy way to just turn that on in the foundation template. I guess, Randy, unless if they renamed their category sheet and then they just deleted like the monthly and yearly budget tabs, would that work? Because the Tiller budget will also install the right category sheet it needs, right?
I think that's right. We'd have to double check that the category sheet is installed. I think another option, which might be more compelling if you're wanting to test this out, would be to create a new sheet. And we have a tool in Tiller Labs called the Migration Helper. We're going to demo that in a few weeks. But the idea behind the Migration Helper is you can basically have Tiller Money Feeds add-on load all your transactions again. They won't have categorizations. And then you can use the Migration Helper to pull in and match all those categorizations you made into the new sheet. And then on top of that new sheet, you'd be able to run the envelope budget and get a feel for that.
Yeah, so here's the Migration Helper Randy's talking about. That would be my other recommendation. If you just want to test it out and see which one you like better, that's probably the best way to go versus just like diving all in on your live sheet that you've already spent time customizing. The thing to keep in mind with the migration is that it's not going to migrate your budgets. It won't migrate, like if you're using the foundation template, which I have also for other webinar demos, you set all the budgets here in the foundation. It's not going to migrate these budgets over and set them up to be used in this one. You'd have to sort of manually migrate your budgets over. So that's a great question, Jennifer. Okay.
Jennifer, real quick, if you want to have us detail out those steps, just go ahead and ask that question in the community, and I can respond to that and give you a step-by-step on how to do that.
Sounds great. Thanks, Randy. Jennifer also asks, and I agree, I think it would be helpful to have an overview webinar of the various add-ons, which ones you need to have, what each of the add-ons do, etc. I have Tiller Money Feeds, and Tiller Money Labs. I agree. I think that's a great, that would be a great community webinar topic. What do you think, Randy?
Of course.
All right, looks like we got 4 more. So if anybody has other questions, definitely get those in. We got a few more minutes. Linda asks, can you say again, if you already did, where the list of shortcut commands is hosted? Yeah, so that's over on the Tiller Money community, where you can ask questions and get support for this labs tool. It's not in the labs add-on, which is a little confusing, but it is still supported in the community by our team, and Randy, leading the labs team and development, would be taking in work to make changes here. So it's in the labs bucket. You can find those shortcut commands under, let's see here. I think it's this one.
I saw them in the middle of the document.
Monitoring and managing your budget. Under key workflows, there's a section for adjusting budgets. And so you can read all about, adjusting category budget plans with dynamic shortcuts. It talks through the B+ and B-, and then just typing the amount in is going to overwrite the budget. And then the same thing with rollovers. R equals or R+ or R- is going to adjust the rollovers. So that's a great question, Linda. All right, and that, like I said, that'll be in the, all these questions will be in the community topic tomorrow, so you'll be able to have quick access to the links for these too. All right, Glenna asks, how would I break up charges on a credit card to itemize into categories? Generally, when transactions come through for purchases on credit cards, they come in the same way they would as if it were a checking account, for example. Like, let's say that I was paying my AT&T phone bill on my credit card. Like, I'm just going to see this AT&T line item, and like I would just categorize it as cell phone. If it's more about, like there's multiple items in a purchase, that's where the splitter can come in handy, and that's in the Tiller Labs add-on under tools, and then split transaction. You can select a transaction, and then you can split it multiple ways. The other thing we have is we do have a CSV line item importer, which I think the only one that's going to be helpful for in maybe this example is did I go to the wrong thing? It's just under tools, and then import CSV line items is the Amazon purchases, and that would help you itemize the different purchases based on category. So hopefully that helps, Glenna. If not, please just clarify your question there. All right, Ron asks, as a follow-on to John's question, is there a way to tie recurring bills or expenses to this budget starter sheet or the foundation template sheet? Do you understand that one, Randy? Any ideas on that? Not sure I understand totally.
I don't, John. If you want to just clarify that in the comments, we can try to take a stab at it.
Yeah, I think most of the time when I see things about recurring bills or expenses, it's kind of like that scenario, Randy, where folks want to be able to itemize the deductions that are coming out of their paycheck. And so there's that workflow we have in the community, I think John shared, and it's the most compelling, where you just have like a separate sheet. You can add new blank sheets to your any of your sheets, just clicking this plus down in the lower left. And so you have like these different items like 401k, health insurance. And so you just kind of stage it, and it's just based on like what's here. You can kind of stage it based on the transaction sheet, so that when it rolls around, then it's in an easy format for you to just grab it, and you have it categorized and you have the amount. And generally those types of things don't change if they are recurring. We don't have, Ron does follow up with, I have a mortgage coming bill that gets paid on the 15th of each month. We don't have like a bill due date tracker that's fully polished. There is something out in the community about bill due date reminders that give you an option to say like, here's the bill, here's the due date, like send me a reminder email, but you have to kind of mess around with some scripts. And so it's definitely use at your own risk if you feel comfortable, like, working with scripts in your sheet. So I don't necessarily always recommend that to folks, but it is out there. It's an option. So hopefully that helps, Ron. If not, I would maybe clarify a little bit more. All right, Jennifer says, I'm rolling this out to clients and I don't think I have a great handle on all the pieces that could be used. So Jennifer, I would recommend maybe reaching out to the support team to get some more information on, what's best there. We do have a group on the community that's for financial professionals. that you could join and participate in. And we have best practices documented there for how to use Tiller Money in its current, ecosystem and tools set and everything with clients to make sure that you understand the limitations and as well as the flexibility there. So if you just reach out to the support team using the chat down here in the lower right, they can point you in the right direction for getting access to that group. The other thing I would say is I would definitely recommend using the foundation template. It's just vastly easier than this envelope budget template. It's a great template. It has a lot of power. It's very powerful, but it's a lot more complex to understand and manage. So that helps. And
Heather, I know we're kind of over time here, and if people need to go, that's fine. But I did want to see if we could take a quick swing at the question about what the different add-ons, how they interact.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
One last question. Ron clarifies, that's what I was asking, if there was something that would use a pivot table of recurring expenses or bills to auto-populate either the budget or the foundation template for planning purposes. Yeah, Ron, sorry, I would use something like this just to kind of like get them staged, and then you just copy and paste them in. You could paste them at the bottom of the sheet, or you can, insert rows, things like that. There also is in the tools section of the Money Labs add-on, there's the manual transactions, which we'll be demoing in our next session. And that would probably help with some of the planning you're kind of thinking about. So hopefully that helps, Ron. Okay, Randy, take it away with your, if you want to explain about the add-ons.
Yeah, I just wanted to note, so right now we have 3 add-ons. We have the Tiller Money Feeds add-on, which basically adds, it's where you link accounts. It's where you update your feeds. It's basically kind of core to how we fill data from the paid subscription service. Recently, we've added the AutoCat beta to do automatic categorization into that add-on. And then also there's the ability to add manual accounts and balances through that add-on. The second add-on is the Tiller Money Labs add-on, recently renamed from Tiller Labs. Tiller Money Labs has a lot of sort of free and sort of best effort tools, including many templates, which Heather's showing right now. Also workflows such as the splitter, reports, migration, sanitization, all sorts of workflows that can help you. Heather's jumping into tools here, ability to pull in transactions from Amazon, PayPal, that kind of thing. And then the third add-on was really the focus of today's. And this is honestly our oldest add-on. It used to have the business in it. It used to have, there's one other thing we pulled out of there. I can't quite remember, but AutoCat, the old version of AutoCat lived in there. But at this point, really the Tiller add-on is mostly useful for using our envelope budgeting. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Heather?
No, I think that was a great summary. AutoCat, for old AutoCat still in there for users that started and are still using the older version of our sheets that weren't powered by the Tiller Money Feeds add-on. Back in August of last year, we changed the mechanism by which we feed data in. So we've made a lot of really great improvements to the whole ecosystem. And so we're really excited about, being able to allow customers to own their sheets with the Tiller Money Feeds add-on, being able to add transaction balance data to any Google Sheet. And then the modularity that the Tiller Money Labs add-on really offers with being able to add a solution in based on your specific goal, being able to restore that solution if it breaks, or if we find a bug and we fix it, you'll have some version information here and you can restore different solutions, things like that. And so I think another, an important key with this is, and maybe you can speak to this a little bit, Randy, is just understanding the distinction, with what Labs is and how that maybe differs a little bit from the Tiller Money Feeds add-on.
Yeah, the core of our service is the paid subscription to basically link accounts, but the Labs, and that is all supported by our customer success team, which Heather leads. The Labs is really a different part of our service. It's all sort of free and available to anyone. The solutions are generally compatible with the sort of structure and architecture of Tiller spreadsheets, but you don't have to be a Tiller user to use our Lab solutions. And so right now, those two pieces of our platform are bifurcated. And so effectively, over on the lab side, you're going to see solutions that are probably not engineered quite as with quite so much discipline. We do our best to be really active in supporting them. We do our best to keep them up to date, but they're not really sort of held to the same standard as our sort of paid product. I think you'll find that they're pretty reliable and they're pretty well made, but again, they are solutions supported in our community where we are active, but they're different than the parts that are core to our paid service.
Yeah, and that's where the experimental side comes in with the lab stuff, and we ship really quickly, and so that's what the power of why this modularity works is that we can really ship quickly. And when we find things that, our customers find things and share it in the community that like, hey, I think there's a bug, like it's really easy to deploy the solution. And so that's the intent there, is to like get ideas in the community, iterate on things rapidly, get it out there. And so that's sort of like the nature of labs. Whereas like with the Tiller money feeds and core products, like it's a lot slower. We're very rigorous. We do a lot more heavy testing, a lot more thorough documentation with the core product service stuff, because it's core to our business. Whereas, the peripheries, they're great and they like really enhance the tool, but we want to just be able to ship quickly and like see what's working and what's not. So, all right, looks like we had one more question. We'll take that and then we'll wrap. What additional information does the manual transaction download for Amazon give you besides what already populates daily into transactions? Randy, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, this is a feature that I'm really excited about. I didn't like how when I bought things on Amazon, I might buy like 5 things and I just get this one credit card line item that said, Amazon, $300. And so what this tool allows you to do is import your order history on a line item basis. So you can see like the dog food and like the camera lens and the yoga mat. And basically those will come in as line items. And then there will be what's called an offset that will kind of offset against that credit card charge. And so effectively it allows you to not have to make a category that's called Amazon that's impossible to budget for, because it could be anything. And just kind of accept that this big part of your budget was a black hole. It allows you to basically categorize those things at a line item level and actually budget for them.
Great. That's awesome. Great question too. Thanks, Randy. All right, everyone. I think that's everything that we had. So yeah, thank you for joining and for all the great questions and for the attentiveness. And thanks, Randy, for leading this with me. And we'll see y'all in a few weeks.
Thanks, Heather.
Have a great day. See ya.